Hakadosh Shavua Tov. We are continuing on Daf Tzadik Bet today, which is 92. We're just going to start from the Mishnah, though, on Tzadik Aleph Amud Bet. So there's a Mishnah, second last line. The Mishnah says, Onen. Remember that an Onen is a person that one of the family members, one of the 7 family members, they passed away and they still didn't bury, right? They're deceased. So what is he supposed to do? So now, obviously, he's not allowed to eat any type of kodshim. Okay? So it says, Tovel, he could do, if this happened on Erev Pesach, he should do Tevilah, ve'ochel et pischo la'erev, and then he's going to come and he's going to eat his Korban Pesach in the nighttime. Okay? So basically what's happening is that until now he was asur to eat in Kodshim, but now we're going to come and we're going to tell him, do Tevilah, and in the nighttime he's going to eat his Korban Pesach, because they weren't machmir, right, on him. Because of the mitzvah, the Korban Pesach, they were machmir on him to prohibit him in eating it. Avalo bekodshim, but not in any other kodshim. Meaning, he's not allowed to eat any other type of kodshim, but he is allowed to eat his Korban Pesach. They didn't make this decree in the Korban Pesach. Okay? Hashomea al meto. If somebody hears that one of his family members passed away, and he was already buried, this is called a shemua. We're going to make a differentiation or whatever. Usually there's a difference between shemua krova and shemua rechoka, right, which basically means before or after 30 days. But here it says somebody that hears that his family member passed away. So on that day, right, he has to, if it's going to be after the 30 days, so then what happens is, that's what it says here. But in the footnote, it says it. Between Shemua Krova, which is within the 30 days, that the second that he hears about it, he has to do 7 days of Avelut. Shemua Rechoka means after the 30 days, so then he only has to do Avelut for that moment. So that's what it means. Ashomea al metov. Somebody found out that one of his family members passed away. They were already buried, and it was after 30 days. So then it's only adim midrabanan of onen, and he's a sur bekodshim. Okay, says the Mishnah. Hamlaket lo atzamot. Yeah, somebody that's going to come and he's going to take the bones of the father or the mother from their place, okay, in order to bury them in another place. Right now, again, the same halacha applies. It's yom onen midrabanan. Right, this usually they would only do for certain reasons. Meaning, it's not just some simple to come and start moving, right? A person from transferring them from one kever to another. Usually, they do this when they're going to take them to Israel, or for example, if they were in a place where they can't leave them there anymore, and then they have to move them somewhere else. But just stam kacha, usually we don't just start transporting this, kvarim, moving them from one place to another. Okay, so the same thing. Tovel ve'ochel bekodshim. They could do tevilah and they're allowed to eat even kodshim. Meaning, not only are they allowed to come to eat the Korban Pesach, but also kodshim. Ger shenitgayer me'erev Pesach. Imagine you have a ger that comes and he converts on erev Pesach. So Bet Shammai says Tovel ve'ochel pischo le'erev. He should do tevilah and he should eat the Korban Pesach in the nighttime. Ubet Hillel omrim. Bet Hillel says haporesh min ha'olah keporesh min ha'kever. This ger that he did the brit milah from his orla, it's like he was poresh mina kever. It's like he was like a person that became tamemet. So he becomes tameh for 7 days. So therefore they have to sprinkle upon him on the 3rd day and the 7th day. So to this ger is the exact same thing. So obviously it says he's not allowed to bring the Korban Pesach because he's tameh for 7 days. This is obviously a very big chidush. Why is it that Bet Hillel hold? That means Bet Hillel is actually more stringent than Bet Shammai here. It says here, since he's tameh, obviously he cannot bring his Korban Pesach. Okay, but it doesn't explain the reason. Let's see though. Let's see the Gemara. If the Gemara is going to explain what's the reason behind this. So it says the Gemara, my tama. What is the reason why an onen is on mutaram Pesach, on the Korban Pesach, and is a sur to eat kodshim? So it says, kasavar, he holds, aninut delaila is the rabbanan. The isur of onen to eat kodshim in the nighttime after the death is only midrabbanan, which means that mina Torah, the yisur of eating kodshim is only during the day, which is the same day of death, not the nighttime. That means we're not talking about that the family member passed away on the night of Pesach. They passed away during the day of Pesach, or even a day before, whichever was. Now, that night of Pesach is only a din drabanan. It's not midoraita, meaning it's only midrabbanan that they're not allowed to eat other things. So since it's only drabanan, that's why Gabe Pesach, right? Rabbi Mkom Karet, they didn't put their words in front of Karet. Why? Remember, if a person does not bring the Korban Pesach, it's not just stam that he didn't bring another Korban. If a person is obligated to bring a chatat, a sin offering, Anolah, burnt offering. Shlamim, peace offering. Anashama, guilt offering. All these different types of offerings. If they don't bring it, fine. It could be that they're lacking kapara, they're lacking, but it's not that they have karet, that they get cut off. Somebody doesn't bring the korban pesach, he's chayav karet. So because of that, the rabbis did not put their words in front of the karet, and therefore they permitted them to eat, right, the korban pesach. They went and they did put it, their words like a naseh, which means there by kochim, it's only mitzvah to say that they have to eat in the proper time and so on and so forth. And therefore they didn't permit them eating it. Next part of the Mishnah, Shomea al meto or amlaket atzamot. Right? Somebody that hears about that one of the deceased people, one of his family members passed away and they were already buried. This is after the 30 days. Or mlaket lo atzamot. They picked up the bones and they were moving it. So he's allowed to do tevilah and eat the kochim. So says the Gemara, mlaket atzamot, he says, 1 second. If this person himself was coming and taking the bones of his parents or whatever and moving it somewhere else, transporting it, so he needs istamemet. Right? He's tameh, so he needs to be sprinkled on the 3rd and 7th day to become pure. Nowadays, you cannot go up to Harabait, to where the Beit HaMikdash was, where the mosque is nowadays. Right? Why not? Very, very simple. Because we are all tamemet. Tamemet means you went to the cemetery once, or you were in the vicinity of a dead person once. That's it. We're all tamim. Now, the only way to get out of that is they take a paraduma, the red heifer, right? And then they're going to burn it, right? And then they take the ashes, they mix it with water, and then they come and they do a procedure. They sprinkle it on you on the 3rd day and the 7th day.
But they have the ashes from Paraduma from before. We haven't stopped.
Right now we don't have.
No, right now we don't have.
Okay, yeah, but they used to have, yeah, exactly. They always had in stock, right? Exactly. They would always make sure that they would have. But so now the thing is, but here, so how are you going to do it? So that's why you never get out of karet. That's why, according to the rabbis, whether it was Rav Avadia, Rav Eliashiv, it's a sur. You're not allowed to go to Harabait. Harabait, you're not allowed nothing whatsoever. Because some people, they want to go up, they start bringing korbanot, they start doing all these. You understand? No, you're not allowed. Yeah, exactly. We're all to me. That's what it says.
And then the other one is Melaketa. Is it 2 different things? Or?
Yes. Shomea al meto just means that they found out, right, that a family member passed away. No, there it's not because of Tumah. Huh? There it's not because of Tumah. It's only because of Aninut. But it's Aninut b'Drabanan. Aninut. Onen. Onen, also, by the way, the Onen was not because of Tumah. The Onen that we mentioned at the beginning of the Mishnah, Onen, Tovel ve'ochel pischo le'erev, there we could be talking about an Onen, which is basically the concept of a person that, a family member passed away and he's in Israel and the other one's in Canada or America. It's not tameh. It's not tameh. An Onen is not the Isur because of tameh. An Onen he's not allowed to do, but he's not allowed to eat kochim, he's not allowed to do all these things. Nothing to do with Tumah, even without Tumah. Meleket atzamot was because of Tumah, that's what we're asking now. But the other ones was because of Aninut. For example, I'll just give you an example. There was a story here of an elderly person that he passed away. And he passed away very suddenly. What do you mean suddenly? Meaning they weren't expecting it. His wife, she wasn't well. Everyone thought that the woman, right, that means that the wife would pass away much earlier. And it was the exact opposite. She's still, kicking, knocking away, as they say. And the husband passed away. So they went, there was a whole question, should they tell her? Now, the thing is, she's not 100% there. She's not healthy. You're going to start telling her she's going to start doing, 7 days of avelut and, all these things, right? And anyway, what type of avelut could she do? So what did the rabbi say? The rabbi say, first of all, you would have to break the news to her little by little and make sure it's after 30 days. Why? Because if it's going to be after 30 days, it's considered shmuar rechoka. It's considered that it was a long time already. If it was a long time already, she doesn't have to do 7 days of avelut. She just have to do it for that moment.
Mine is not so well there. It's useless. But she doesn't know anything.
No, so right, but she's asking. So the question is, you're going to start telling her, it's going to start. So there's some people that they'll try not to say it at all, and other people they want to say it probably, but they'll say a little bit. But you wait 30 days. 30 days is now become shmuar rechoka instead of shmuar kerova.
Okay.
What? I don't know. Even in that, you see, I don't know. No. But for sure, I remember that when I asked, for sure it was going to be after that. And even with that, I don't know if they actually did tell them at the end. In a sense of
a very good example that really happened to me the past 2 months. I mean, my father-in-law passed away.
Okay.
My mother-in-law, she is not Yeah, I don't know if it's not, if it's only old summer, it's more than old summer. So she doesn't see him at home. But she's not.
She's not asking.
Yes, no, I mean, she doesn't know what's going on here.
Right. Okay.
Doesn't matter if you tell her now.
Right, exactly. No, but it's better though that it's after the 30 days. Okay. So that means even if you would have wanted to tell her, it's better to wait until after 30 days. That way, because if not, then what? She's going to sit on the floor. She's too old. She's too this. Hey, you understand? You're not going to start. So therefore, they just wait. They wait the 30 days, then they start. You understand? They start doing it. Okay. So says the Gemara, right? So that's Melaket Atzamot. So now, by the case of Melaket Atzamot, it means that you yourself, you are actually coming and you are taking the bones. So says the Gemara, Habaye Hazash Shvi. So answers the Gemara, Ema liktu lo atzamot. It wasn't that the person himself went and took the bones. They took the bones for him. So for example, imagine right now a person moves to Israel and he had his parents in wherever it is, whether it's going to be Canada, whether it's going to be wherever it is in America, and all of a sudden they want to come and they want to transport the bones, but he's not going. So they're doing it for him. That day, he still has to be Noheg Avelut. So on that day, he's going to be Noheg Avelut, right?
He already said Shiva before.
Exactly. But it's a new Avelut. It's called Aninut. It's Aninut Mechadash.
You see a whole 7 days?
No. 1 day. Oh, wow. 1 day. He says actually here, it's Lefi Sha'ah. It's like Sha'ah.
The day of the unburying or the day of the burying?
Very good. That's a very good question.
And also, the minute that he got buried already?
Which one?
When he got buried already, you start for the day? Only when he got buried or when it took him?
That's what he just asked right now.
Okay.
That's a good question. Okay? But it does say that Melaket Atzamot, for sure, he has to be Noheg, right? 1 day of Avelut. Okay? So now it says over here, when burying him, no? Yeah, okay. So it says over here, that's in the footnote. No, Melaket Atzamot means okay, fine. So now the Gemara is going to say as follows. Okay? It says, the Gemara, Eima sheliktulu atzamot. Fine, next. Geshin tkayer. So a person that became converted on the Erev Pesach. Amar Rabba Barachanam Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan, the machloke between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel is be'arel nochri. We're talking about a goy that he never did a brit milah, and he did tevilah, right, on Erev Pesach. Tamina din, he does not have any tum'ah. Why? Because a goy is not mekabel tum'ah. The Bet Hillel savre, the Bet Hillel actually hold, right, that he's still going to be a sur midrabanan to eat. Gizra shami itman shanababas. Maybe he's going to become tameh the next year. V'yomar, and he's going to say, Eshtakad, last year, milo tavalti v'achalti, didn't I do tevilah and I ate? That's what I did. So achshav nami, it's ve'ochel. So therefore, I'm going to do tevilah, I'm going to eat. Ve'lo yada, but he didn't know as deshakad, that he didn't know the last year, nochri ava, that he was actually a goy. Ve'lo mekabel tuman, he's not mekabel tumah. Achshav, but right now, Yisrael, umkabel tumah. Now he's a Jew, and he's mekabel tumah. Bet Shammai Savri and Bet Shammai hold lo gazrina. We do not make such a decree. Okay, aval arel Yisrael ledivra kol tovel ve'ochel pischo le'erev. But in arel Yisrael, according to everybody, he just does tevilah and he eats his korban pesach in the nighttime. Ve'lo gazrina, and we're not going to make a gezerah of tumah arel Yisrael mishum arel nochri. Arel Yisrael because of an arel nochri, which means we're talking about an arel Yisrael that he did the brit milah on erev Pesach. So according to everybody, what he just does is he does tevilah and then he goes. But we're not going to make such a decree to do with that. Maybe if you're going to permit the arel nachri, right, that already Yisrael is going to be prohibited because of the arel nachri, because we're not going to suspect that. Okay, so that means the machloket is only in a case of an arel, meaning a goy. He was an arel, he's not circumcised. He's going to go to the mikveh and everything. But right, Bet Shammai says go to the mikveh and eat, no problem that night. But according to Bet. Which one?
Without breed. Yeah. Or he did breed.
No, he did breed.
Okay.
He did the breed. He did the breed. But which one?
He's not Arel.
No, he was an Arel. Now he's not an Arel. Yeah. So now what happens now is the Bet Shammai. So again, one more time. So the Arel Nochri, he did Milah and Tvilah for his Gerut on Erev Pesach. So Mina Din is not Metameh. Because remember, a Goy is not Metameh. But Bet Hillel is just prohibited because of the decree. What's the decree? The decree is that maybe next year he will be tameh, and then he's going to say, 1 second, last year, even I just did tevilah, and I went and I ate the korban. So this year, I'm going to do tevilah, and I'm going to eat the korban pesach, and that's it. So,
it's interesting, no?
Exactly, but that's what we said before, that the Bet Hillel was more machmir than Bet Shammai, yes. Right? Yeah. By the way, you should know there were many cases like that, right? Even though it's not common, meaning it's not common. But with Hillel and Shammai itself, there was only, I think, 3 or 4, which is brought down in the Mishnayot. But in the Gemara, there are more cases where Bet Hillel are actually more machmirim than Bet Shammai. Okay. Tanya Miyachi, we also learned to the right. Amar B'Shomim Lazar says B'Shomim Lazar Nachlaku Bet Shammai Bet Hillel al Arel Yisrael Shetovel B'Ochel B'Schol Ha'erev. That they weren't arguing on a case of an Arel Yisrael that he does Tevilah and he eats at the Pesach in the nighttime. Amar Nechlaku on what are they making a machloket on? Only on Arel Nochri. The Bet Shammai says Tovel B'Ochel B'Schol Ha'erev. Bet Hillel says Poresh Min Ha'orla Keporesh Min Ha'kever. It's like that he's separated from a dead person, which means that he becomes tameh for 7 days. Okay, next. Amar Rava. Rava says, Ya arel, haza'a, ve'izemel. These are 3 halachot, which we're going to learn now. Hemidu divreim minkom karet. They place their words like karet. Right? Onen, metzora, ubetapras. Lo hemidu divreim minkom karet. However, though these 3 cases of onen, metzora, and betapras, right, we did not make it like that, which means that they didn't put it instead of karet. So now we're going to explain one by one. Okay, so what was the first 3? Arel, hazani, zem. So arel, adamran. Arel was that which we said in the Mishnah, that a ger that comes to convert himself on Erev Pesach, according to Bet Hillel, Chachamim put their words in bimkom karet, and they made tuma on him, even though now he's not going to come and bring him korban Pesach, which means mina Torah, right? There's nothing here, right? Remember, it was according to Bet Hillel, it was only a decree. It was a gezerah, maybe for next year, what's going to happen? But that's a gezerah, it's a derabanan. Which means that midoraita, he converts on Erev Pesach, he did Brit Milah, he does Tevilah, he has to eat the Korban Pesach. If he doesn't eat the Korban Pesach, he's chayav karet. The rabbis hamidu divrehem bimkom karet, which means that they place the words that even though now the person could get a karet, they said you're not allowed to. That's case number 1. Which one? Yeah, basem, on a positive commandment. Yeah. Number 2, haza'ah, sprinkling. Now let's see what this is. The Amar More says in a Mishnah, Haza'ah is a shvut. What does that mean? When we're talking about the sprinkling of the mechatat on a person that's tamemet in order to purify him, that's a shvut. That's only nisur on Shabbat midrabbanan. Okay? Which means, right, the reasoning of the isur is gezerah, maybe they're going to take it for amot and reshut rabim. Right? That means maybe they're going to transport this, right, these powerful waters, right, 4 amot on the Reshut Rabim. So midrabanan, you're not allowed to do azah on Shabbat. So you're not allowed to sprinkle on Shabbat in order to purify. This is what we mentioned before. Taking the red heifer, right, burning it, taking the ashes, mixing it with the water, and then sprinkling. That we don't do it on Shabbat. It's a shavut. They don't dochet a Shabbat. It's not going to push off Shabbat, right? Which means that if the 7th day comes out on Erev Pesach and it's chal on Shabbat, they don't sprinkle him. Now, even though because of this, now he can't bring the korban Pesach. Again, hamidu divrehem bimkom, right? Bimkom karet. 3rd case, izemel. What's the izmel? Izmel, it says over here, the Tanya, as we learned, right, in a braita. Keshem she'en mevi'in oto, just like we don't bring this izmel, this is like the sakin shel milah, the brit milah knife. Just like you don't bring it on Shabbat, derech reshut rabim, through a reshut rabim in order to do the brit milah to a child, right? Because the mitzvah milah does not push off the yisur of hotzah and achnasa, right? It only pushes off the brit milah in itself. So too, you cannot bring it on the rabbanans. What are the rabbanans? Bringing it on the roofs or through courtyards or through the kapifot or the places of the wood, right? The wood storages. So also we're not going to come and we're not going to permit them. Why? Again, the same thing, even instead of karet, because now, again, this is only going to be in the rabbanan, and this is going to come out that even if it's going to be on Erev Pesach, comes out on Shabbat, and if you're going to push off the Brit Milah, now he cannot bring the Korban Pesach. Right, because the milah of his son is actually ma'akevoto from eating the korban pesach, right, from bringing the korban pesach. But the rabbis come and they said, no, we're not allowing to. Okay, now we're going the other way around. The other way around was onen mitzura and betapras, right? They permitted. So onen was hadamran, was what we said. A person's an onen, right? One of the family members passed away. We said it doesn't stop him. Do tevilah, and then he's going to eat his korban pesach in the night. He's still an onen. They didn't bury them. Doesn't matter. Right? Why? Because since it was a karet, the rabbi said, you know what, go. Right? We're not going to prohibit it. It's in the night time. Mitzorah, what is mitzorah? The Tanya was learned to write mitzorah shechala shmini shelo berev pesach. What happens if the mitzorah, the 8th day of the mitzorah falls out on Erev Pesach? Now remember, on the 8th day is when he brings his korban. V'ra'a keri bo bayom. Now he all of a sudden he sees keri, right, on the same day, which means that he's not allowed to come and go into Harabait on that day. So what does he do? Tovel, he should purify himself because of the keri, and then he brings his korbanot and he comes into the Bet HaMikdash, right, and they give him from the blood of the Hasham and he becomes pure, right, to eat in Kodshim. Ve'ochel, amru chachamim, right, say chachamim, af al pi shetvul yom eno nichnas, even though a tvul yom does not come in to Harabait, ze nichnas, this person does go inside, right? Mutav sheyavo aseh sheish bu karet, because the positive commandment of the Korban Pesach, which has karet, is going to push off the positive commandment of a tvul yom going into the Harabait, right, which does not have karet, which means the Korban Pesach, which is a positive commandment that has a punishment of karet, is stronger than the positive commandment of not going into the Bet HaMikdash if a person's balkeri, even though he went to the mikveh. Okay, balkeri means that he had a seminal discharge. Okay, so says the Gemara. Okay, v'hamar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, dvar Torah afilu esembo. Really, be'emet midoraita, there's not even a positive commandment, right? Shneimar, but it says in a pasuk. Yeah, that means it's only going to be the Rabbanan according to Rabbi Yochanan to go into the Bet HaMikdash if he's a balkeri. Because it says in a pasuk, v'yamod Yoshafat bikal Yehuda v'Yisrael mivet Hashem lifnei hachatzer hachadasha. That Yoshafat came into the Kal of Yehuda and Yerushalayim in the house of Hashem in front of the Chatzer, the new Chatzer, right, which is the Harabait. My Chatzer Chadasha, what do you mean the Chatzer Chadasha? Why is it called Chatzer Chadasha? Shechidshu bo davar, because they went and they made a novelty. They made something Chadash. Ve'amru, and they said, Tful Yom lo yikanes Machane Leviyah, that a Tful Yom cannot come into the Machane Leviyah, which is Harabait. So it comes out that this Isur was only midrabanan. It wasn't Doraita. So because of that, they didn't push off the words of they didn't push off in the concept of karet. Beta pras, what is beta pras? The Tanamas we learned in the Mishnah now a lot. The Shavim Bet Shammai Bet Hillel, the Bet Shammai Bet Hillel are both equal in what? Right? So the beta mubet 92b. Shebotkin leose Pesach, right? Ve'em botkin leochle truma, which means it's going to be permitted if a person doesn't have another way to go through a beta pras. A beta pras is a field that they went and they plowed the field and there's a kever there. Now it's going to be tamem derbanan because we don't know where the kever is. So you have a huge field. Somebody for sure was buried in the field. You just don't know where. So they come and they plow the entire field. So in order to come and bring the Korban Pesach, it says that he checks the place where he's walking and there's no bones there. And then he's going to be soech on his bedika that he didn't become tameh. But en botkin leochle truma, the kohanim that have to pass through this beta pras in order to go to eat truma, Chachamim did not permit them to check on this bedika. Why? Because since they can wait to eat the truma afterwards, so even though there's no other way, they would wait. And then they would go 1 or 2 days until finally they get to the truma. That means they would have to go all the way around or whatever. Doesn't matter. But don't go through the field. Don't go through the beta pras. So to do with the Korban Pesach, you go through the beta pras, you just check, and according to your bedika, we're going to be somech on this. Right? We're going to rely upon this. But according to the other one, no. My botkin, what does it mean that we're going to check for the people that are doing the Korban Pesach? He starts blowing, right, with his mouth on the floor before every single step, because even if there was going to be a small bone there, it's going to be pushed off. Rav Yehuda bar Abaye says in the name of Rav Yehuda, beta pras shenidash tahor. When you have a beta pras that was basically trampled upon, right, whether it was because of humans or animals, now becomes tahor, because for sure the drisata raglaim and everything is going to push away the bones. So even if they were there, right, and now if somebody wants to do his Korban Pesach, he should just check, right, and then he's going to be permitted, right? Which means why? Because it's the same thing. They didn't put their words on the karet, and therefore they're allowed to do that. So again, there was 3 and 3. 3 that they said we don't care. That means even though it's only the Rabbanan, sorry, we're not letting you do the Korban Pesach. And 3 they said, you know what? It's only the Rabbanan. Let them do the Korban Pesach. Hadran alach haisha. We're starting the next chapter. So the Bet Amud Bet, right? Perek Teshi, the 9th chapter. Somebody that was tameh, or he was far away on the 14th of Nisan during the afternoon, which is the time of Shchitat Korban Pesach. Velo asat harishon, and he didn't do the first Korban Pesach. Yaset hasheni, he's going to do the second Korban Pesach. Shagago nenas velo asat harishon, if it was accidental or there was a case of force majeure, that he wasn't able to do the first Korban Pesach. Yaset hasheni, do the second one. Imken, if so, lama ne'emar letameh sheyavderech. Why do I need the tameh sheyavderech? It's the same thing. So answers the Gemara, she'elu peturim mi karet ve'elu chayavim bi karet. Because the first one, right, which we just mentioned, they were actually going to be patur from karet. Okay? Which one? So it says here, according to Rashi, right, our case is not talking about Befirush because all the cases in our Mishnah, there's no chiyuv karet according to Rashi, only by mezid or an onen according to Rav Sheshat. We're going to see it now. That wasn't brought down in the Gemara. But basically, there's going to be a whole machloket. When are you going to be chayav or not? So it's not that in our Mishnah they split it up according to that. That's what it says here in the footnote. However, though, let's see the Gemara to see which cases are they chayav karet and which not. Which means there are certain cases that they had to bring it, and if they didn't bring it, they're chayav karet. Other cases, if they didn't bring it, there was no karet involved. Okay? So let's see the Gemara. Itman, it was stated. If somebody's on a far-off place, and they slaughter the korban pesach and they sprinkled it, the korban on the mizbeach, Rav Nachman says, hurtza, it's going to be good, and he's going to be yitzei chovah. He doesn't have to bring a korban pesach sheni, which means that even though he was far away and they did it for him, it's going to be okay. Hurtza. Says the Gemara, Rav Sheshat says, lo hurtza, it doesn't help. Rav Nachman amar hurtza, so Rav Nachman says, why is it that it's hurtza? He says, because the Torah was chas alav, that he cannot come to Yerushalayim during the time of the Korban Pesach, and therefore they gave him a chance to do so. V'yavid, now if he is able to do it through a shliach, tavola bracha, he should get a bracha. But Rav Sheshat comes and he says, no, lo urtza midedachya rachmana ketameh. It's not urtza, but it's like that the Torah pushed him off like a person that's tameh, which means since he cannot come to Yerushalayim in order to do it on the proper time, so it's as if he was pushed off. Since he was pushed off, he can't bring it. So Amar of Nachman says, Nachman, how do I know this? Somebody was tameh or in a far off place and he didn't do the first Pesach. Yes, do the second one. Mikla, let's smash the one. You could deduce that if he didn't want to do the first one, right, you're able to. So therefore, Rav Nachman says it's only if you couldn't do it, but if you do want to do it, you're able to do it. Rav Sheshat says no. If so, let's see the Seifa. The Seifa we learned shagag or ne'enas. If he was shogeg or first major, ne'enas. Velo asa et tarishon. He didn't do the first one, so you should do the second one. Miktani velo asa. Since it says that he didn't do it, mikladi bave ismashma that he could have done it. Share shagag v'arenanas. So 1 second, it comes out that if he was shogeg or ne'enas, right? So that's why he didn't do it. Ella mezid katani b'davar. This is talking about mezid. Hachanami. So to here, we're talking about onen katani b'davar. We're talking about an onen. Okay. Fine. Then it says like this. Amar Ravashi says, Matniti nami daika. We could also deduce this from the Mishnah. Diktani elu pturim mikaret. Right. These are going to be pturim from karet. Ve'elu chayavim bi karet. And these are going to be obligated in karet. So says the Gemara. Ahai. What are we talking about exactly? Right, but now remember one more time, we're going to the Seifa of the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that there was going to be a difference between certain cases, that sometimes if a person didn't bring Korban Pesach, they're chayav, and sometimes they're patur. Now we have to analyze when is those cases. We thought maybe it was in the Mishnah, but it could be that's not true. So let's see. So says the Gemara, ahai, what is this going on? If you're going to tell me now that when the Mishnah says that you're going to be chayav karet, it's talking about ilema shogeg v'ne'enas. If you're going to tell me it's on shogeg and ne'enas, shogeg v'ne'enas v'ne karet, then what? Mamash karet? It cannot be that way. Why? He should only be chayav karet if he did it purposely. Imagine a person made a mistake, right? Or force majeure. He was coming, and all of a sudden something, I don't know what happened. You're going to tell me he's chayav karet? He wanted to do it. He's just not able to do it. Yeah, he had the intention. Obviously, it's talking about it's a mezid. So Rav Nachman Amar Lecha says Rav Nachman, Le'olam mezid lechudeh. Really, be'emet, it's only on mezid. Yeah, it's only going to be on a mezid. Okay. So he says, "Ubedinu dibai lemitne chayav." Right, that means it's not even on the onen. So he says, and Rebedin really be'emet, we should have said that it's going to be chayav, not chayavim, because when it says chayavim karet, it's much. There's a few cases. If you say it's chayav, it's individual. It's only one case. It's singular. The haidik tani chayavim. So why do we say chayavim? But since in the Reisha we taught peturim in Lashon Rabim, it was a few cases. So therefore, Tana Seifa chayavim. That's what we thought in the Seifa chayavim. So Amar Rav Sheshat says Rav Sheshat, how do we know this? The time we learned to write that Rabbi Kiva says, Ne'emar tameh v'ne'emar derech chokla. It says tameh, and by the Korban Pesach Rishon, right? And it says derech chokla, right? That he also has to bring the Pesach Sheni. So basically, whether the person is tameh or derech chokla, he has to bring it. Ma tameh, just like tameh, right? When said the Gimel Amud Aleph on the top, just like tameh shesipek biado la'asot, he's got the possibility to do it. ve'eno se, he doesn't do it. That means even though he could have done it, he doesn't do it. So too, he could have done it. Right? If a person's in a far off place, but he just didn't do it. And then the Rav Nachman is going to answer this up. So B'ezrat Hashem, we continue tomorrow.